Hey everyone, welcome to the 7th episode of the Wheels to Walking podcast. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. We are currently recording this before Christmas.
Yeah, we're recording this before Christmas. What's up? My name's Andrew Deitch. This is Richard Corbett. We're one guy in a wheelchair and one guy not in a wheelchair.
Yeah, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and I got another guy not in a wheelchair.
Yeah. But all the episodes that we've recorded before this were before we actually even launched the podcast. Like everything was just behind closed doors. Nobody asked for this shit. Some people did because we were recording a podcast on Patreon where we were recording every week and people like that. So people were liking the podcast, but no one else was like requesting like, oh, make it public, make a big deal out of it, put it on video. Like we were doing all of this.
Yeah, one of the things about doing anything creative on the internet is you still have to have a narcissistic like angle to you.
Totally.
Like at least a little bit, enough to think people want to see this and people want to hear this and people want to listen to me and people want to hear me. And, you know, it's a big risk because you kind of have to be like, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and make these videos that no one asked for.
Well, that was like kind of the hard thing about me starting my podcast 2.5 years ago was like, I just started it out of nowhere. And it was really weird for me to be like, hey, go listen to my podcast, go rate and review. Cause it's like, oh, I have the audacity to just think that you're going to want to enjoy that. Like,
everyone's like, who are you? Why would I want to do that?
Yeah. Like my whole first episode 0 is like kind of me just like explaining all the episodes that I'd already recorded. Like I kind of gave like previews, like if you like this, you should go listen to episode 1. If you like this, you should go listen to episode 2. Cause I was just trying to like find my voice. Whereas with Wheels to Walking podcast, we've already got a large audience on YouTube. We've already got my audience from my podcast, and we've got a lot of people that just know that we've been podcasting for a long time, and now I have friends in the podcast space and all that kind of stuff. So now it wasn't weird for this launch to be like asking for reviews and like going so hard, and you know we had more expectations. And I mean, when I launched my podcast, like we weren't doing it on video or in a studio or with nice microphones or anything. I had like a cheap setup, and you know I just did what I could. So we had a lot more expectations behind what we were doing, kind of.
Yeah, we definitely went hard in the paint because although no one asked for it, we knew people wanted it.
Totally.
Like we
knew people would enjoy it.
I mean, I knew people wanted it. I could tell by all the DMs that I get all the time. Like people are always like bringing up conversations and having topics, and it's difficult to reply to everybody. I mean, I do my best to get to everyone, especially if it's like an important or interesting question. But it's like those one-on-one conversations about the same topic I can't have 50 times. Like I just want to pull my hair out. So like totally. I started to, send, like audio messages to people instead of just typing it out, or, because that makes it more personal and I have 60 seconds to talk versus, just typing. And so
I love audio messages.
Yeah. So now I get to bring a lot of the stuff I regularly get asked on my Instagram, which I always talk about my Instagram because that's kind of like the way you can text me. Like, on YouTube,
like the only way to reach you.
Yeah, on YouTube, there's comments. I'll probably heart your comment, or I might reply back if it's something that. A lot of people ask a lot of questions that, like, with a quick Google search, you can figure out. Or if you just look at my channel or look at my playlists, or just take 5 to 10 minutes to just explore. Like, no one wants to even look. No one even wants to look in the description. They don't want to like press a button and read.
Well, because people are lazy. Like, I mean, they'd rather just. Either that or they're trying to find an in. Like they want to talk to you, but they don't know what to say, so they just ask you a question, you know?
So I don't mind ever asking or answering all the stuff that I haven't talked about, but stuff that I clearly have talked about, I'll usually direct people to that content and be like, oh yeah, sure, this is what I think about it. And I'll like send them to a post or I'll send them to a video. But there's a lot of stuff I haven't covered yet that I really think is important. It's interesting, but I definitely don't have a place to send them. So now that the podcast is available, and especially with the clips that we're putting out on YouTube, I can be like, oh, you want to know what I think about that? Here, look at this.
Look at this clip. Yeah, we're literally creating like an archive and a library of just information, which is awesome. I don't know. I have like a weird passion towards that type of stuff. Like I think about like maybe one day my kids might listen to some of this stuff. Like it's weird to think about, but it's kind of cool because I think about my dad. Like I don't know what he was like when he was 25. I can't go like listen to
You
videos.
You don't
I
know
can't-
what single dad is.
No, I mean, I can't. He can tell me stories. He can tell me about, things he did and people that he knew and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't have that time capsule. You know what I mean? I can't go back and actually hear or, see that. And for some that might be for the better, and some, like that's kind of cool. Time is time and things move on. But I think it is kind of cool to be able to create like this weird record of what we've done and leaving a legacy. I don't know. I've realized over time that I think my passion for all this kind of stuff is like legacy, and also like not even I don't know if attention is the right word. It might be, but it's like I'm not like craving the attention of like, oh my God, everyone needs to be watching me at all times. It's more like the idea that holy shit, like I can just talk into a microphone and then like 1,000 people listen to it. Like that just kind of like blows my mind, and I just keep chasing that.
We have stadium-sized audience that listens to our stuff and watches our stuff
already,
and we can look at analytics and look at the amount of hours that are watched and the amount of minutes and the amount of views and how long they watch, and it's like, dude, people. That's why I'm so anti-public speaking. Like for the most part, I'm not about public speaking because my message, it gets shrunk if I do public speaking. Like I would be more interested in just doing speeches that you guys record and then we upload them online and let people listen to them versus going to a place. Like I will make exceptions based on things that I really care about, that really matter. Like I think there's one speaking engagement we have coming up next year, and that's in Washington, so that's like a big deal. And but like to get me to just do speaking, like I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And especially if you want to have me come speak at like a corporate thing that I don't have any expertise in, and the only reason you're having me come talk is because I'm like the wheelchair guy who's inspirational. Like I don't care how much money you have to offer me. I'm not interested in being a public speaker. Like I know the life of a public speaker, and it is a lot of travel. It's a lot of shallow relationships. It's a lot of staying in hotels. It's exhausting. It's a lot of repeating yourself. I'm just not interested in that.
No, I agree. Yeah, and I think we have more reach online. I mean, it's just the facts. I mean, we have 7 million views on YouTube and Facebook combined. I think about the gift thing. Like that was always something that weirded me out. Like if people don't know, we've created like these GIFs that you can use on like Instagram stories and stuff. My GIFs have been viewed over 1 billion times. Like literally between my channel and my clients' channels, I have over 1 billion views, which
that's like a
mind blowing. Like I cannot believe that's a real number, but it's true. And like that's just something that's fascinated me for so long, is this idea that I can just like make something and maybe David Beckham sees it. Like that's crazy to me, and that's an actual thing that's happened. I mean,
legitimately.
David Beckham. I mean, I'm not even a big David Beckham fan, but like David Beckham has used my GIFs like multiple times. Like that blows my mind, because the fact that, again, like we've talked about this on the podcast, no one asked for this shit, but we create it, and then all of a sudden people enjoy it, and that's what I love about all this.
I know you get this, and I get this too, where people will send Instagram stories and screenshots from other people's Instagram stories of our faces doing stuff. Like
it's nuts.
Even just the other day, my friend Abigail, she's like, I was posting an Instagram story about being sad, and I typed in sad, and I saw your face, and I was like, holy shit, that's my friend.
Yeah, it's just that idea of
or it was like that, the happy sad face or whatever it was. She was like, oh, that's my friend.
Yeah, and it's this idea of just kind of being everywhere all the time, and just having that recognition is kind of crazy.
I was listening to a podcast of a guy who does movie and television work, and he was saying how...
What's the podcast?
It was Logan Paul's podcast, I think, and the episode was like Logan Paul versus Hollywood, and he was basically talking about how the amount of views that certain people get versus how famous they are is a weird discrepancy. Like Guy Fieri will put out 7 shows over 7 weeks, and those 7 shows over 7 weeks are seen by 100,000 people, but he's a household name now. Because
it is weird.
Because people believe that there's this qualification, this barrier to enter in order to get on TV.
It's true.
And that's where a lot of the huge advertising dollars are on TV, even though it's kind of like an outdated, archaic system. And as new media jumps in and is now taking over, and there's more direct call to action, and it's like, because when people see a YouTube video, they're like, oh, I mean, just any idiot can like upload a video. Like, it's not that special. Like, anybody
barrier
can,
to entry is basically zero.
anyone can just do it. But if you are on a TV show, all of a sudden there's this like, oh, wow, amazing, he's famous, I seen you on TV. Like, and that's
because there's money behind it, and there's opinions and dollars behind it. You know, it's like the TV station has trusted, they've automatically given you that stamp of credibility, whereas on YouTube, no one's giving you that shit. Like, you can literally just upload anything. No one's giving you approval. YouTube is just giving you that permission. They're giving you the platform. They're giving the platform to anyone. It's like, it's not special anymore, because if it's not exclusive, then like, why do I care? Like, you got to prove yourself harder on YouTube, kind of.
Which is unfortunate, because I know we reach more people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think about
more,
if we did a TV deal, I don't see how that would benefit us at all.
I mean, if they want to put like videos that already exist on TV, or if we want to somehow edit them differently for TV, yeah, sure, maybe. But I'm not interested in TV. Like,
no.
There's been a few people. It's like, you need to get a reality show, or you need to get a TV show, or
it's like, that's what we're doing.
You need to get an adventure show, and I'm like, already doing it.
Literally,
like.
Yeah,
like, oh, you're so good, man. It's amazing. You can't wait to get a TV show. And I'm like, you mean you want me to downgrade? Like,
yeah.
I'm just not interested in that in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I understand the game, and the TV game is not something I'm interested in.
Yeah. Casey Neistat was on No Jumper. Did you listen to that one?
I got like 10, 15 minutes in, and it was time for me to go to sleep.
Oh, gotcha. Well, anyways, he was talking about how he's, you know, a lot of these creators are talking about like relevancy and stuff like that, like losing their relevancy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if they don't post for a while, they're afraid they're going to lose their audience or lose interest. And, you know, we can probably relate to that some too. I'm sure if we took a long break, we'd be a little bit worried that people like fall off or don't care. It's less with us because I think we have an actual message that's like impacting people, and people are genuinely saying like how your message has like changed their lives and stuff like that. I think we would struggle less with that.
We've got good numbers, but it's not the numbers that define our success.
Exactly.
It's these messages that we get and these reviews that we're gonna
we're gonna get into that in just a second.
But those are the things that like matter to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care the fact that over the past 4 weeks we've been kind of in a slump, and even before that, even longer. Like, we've been kind of in a down slump for a while, and I don't really care, because I'm happy with what we're doing. I'm happy with the podcast. I'm happy with the videos. I'm happy with the people we're impacting and the relationships that I'm building. And I don't care about the numbers, but there's a lot of people that's their only gauge of success. It is the numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And like Casey was talking about how he's like, ideally I'd like to be someone like Spike Jonze or freaking, who's the guy? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on this. The guy who directed Django and freaking Inglourious Bastards. Come on.
Quentin Tarantino.
Thank you, Quentin Tarantino. Because he's like, there's something romantic about sitting for a couple of years, just making this thing that no one knows about, no one's asking for, and just then releasing it out into the world. And sometimes it's a hit and sometimes it's a flop, but like, every time they come back, people are stoked. You know, like every time Quentin Tarantino releases a movie, it's the hype of the freaking world. Every time Spike Jonze puts out something, it's freaking amazing.
And they are little flashes in the pans, but they're flashes in the pan with legacy.
Exactly.
You know, I think about like comedians. Like, some people only watch comedians and follow comedians right after they release a special, and usually it takes a year to 18 months, sometimes 2 years, to build up enough material to get another hour to do another special. And it's not like they're not successful if they aren't dropping. It's like they're doing other types of comedy. They're building their craft. They're at comedy shows. They're these little flashes in the pan. And
Dave Chappelle's a huge example.
He went away for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years.
And he left at the peak.
Yeah.
He left literally at the peak of the Chappelle show. Like, he was just like, nah, I'm out. He's such a G, dude. I love Dave Chappelle.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get into some of these reviews?
Yeah, let's check them out. So we've been asking you guys to leave us ratings and reviews, and you guys have been awesome and have been leaving us rating reviews, and we're really looking forward to everyone else who
on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't left a review, go hit us up on Apple Podcasts. We've got As of right now, it's like 90, but it's weird how Apple Podcasts refreshes. Like as soon as you post it, they don't like add it, which seems weird. But I think it has something to do with whenever they refresh your RSS feed, that's when they refresh their reviews too. Like it's very odd.
Yeah, and then when the person submits it, they don't see it immediately, and
so then they think they didn't get it posted right, and it's a whole stupid thing. Apple, fix your shit.
Yeah, and they don't refresh like.
I'm gonna rant on
page.
Apple in a little bit after we're done reading these reviews, but
That's fine.
okay, I got a good one right here. This one is from my friend David Labar. Where did it go? He said, unique perspective. I've known David for a long time, so David, if you're listening, what up? He said, unique perspective. As someone who grew up closed-minded, I always look for podcasts that shed light on a life from a different perspective. This really hit the spot in that way. Richard and Andrew tackle heavy subjects and topical conversation with humor and ease. Big fan of this podcast. It's a really nice review because it's true, man. Like I think that's why people enjoy our show. Like we try to be open-minded. We cover a lot of shit and we have a lot of different perspectives on stuff.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. One of the things I like about this show the most is that I listen back to it and I have a fun time listening to it.
Totally.
Like I even gave myself a review because I was like, I listen to this show and I get excited because when they get released, because like, oh yeah, I had that conversation like a week ago, but it's still really interesting to me.
Totally. Do you ever find yourself making the jokes in your head and then you make the joke in real life and you're like I'll think of that all the time when we're recording. You say something and it makes me think of a joke and I say it. And even when I listen back to the recording, I'm like, oh, I should say that joke. And then I say the joke. I'm like, you bastard. You said the joke. Like some dumb pun or something. Like you'll say something. You got a review?
Yeah, I got one. This one is from Superness with a bunch of U's. It says, I've known Richard and Andrew now for about 6 months, and seeing the authentic and helpful content is exactly what this community can use to transition into a new lifestyle even quicker, and also bridges the gap to illuminate and help understand the daily lives of individuals living with a wheelchair. Much kudos to their channel and the new podcast. Excited to see where they take it.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that was
so sweet.
That's really nice. I always appreciate genuine feedback. And you know what's really kind of interesting is, so I talk a lot about like the messages that I get, like the emails that I get and the DMs and you know just all the stuff that people like want to say, they say to me, but they don't want to like say it in public because it might be like too intimate or it might be a little fanboy if they do it in public or whatever.
Yeah.
This is kind of a peek into that world.
Totally.
Because people are now feeling comfortable leaving reviews with what they genuinely think.
Exactly.
And how they genuinely feel. And I think that's really cool, man. Because
yeah,
there's a few more that I'm going to read that that when I read them, I'm like,
so sweet.
Nice. This is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to read one from Arturo. So this guy, Arturo, I've been messaging in the DMs with for a while on Instagram. And it's funny because we haven't met in real life, but he found my podcast somehow. I think it was through like EDM stuff because he also goes to a lot of festivals.
Mm-hmm.
But he messaged me the other day and he was like, dude, like he's been messaging me a lot recently. He's like, dude, your podcast is the shit. Like, you're my favorite podcaster. Like, no lie. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and your show is like legit my favorite. Like, it's so awesome. Like, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, that means a lot. And then when I announced I was canceling my show, he was so sad. But then I'm like, no, dude, I got a new show. And he left us a review and he said, I started following Andrew this year and I love his content. I was never really into podcasts until I discovered your content on Instagram, then began listening to your content. You make such amazing content. He said content so many times and conduct amazing interviews. In this new series, I'm so hyped, man. Congrats, man. I can't wait. You got a loyal subscriber, Arturo.
Hey, Arturo. Thanks, man.
Thanks, bro. That means a lot, dude. And I think that's a testament to like both of us too, because I think we'll be able to like transcend our original platforms into this one. Like, I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like really special. And you guys will understand with this next one that I read. This one is from KLD475. It says, I follow Richard on Instagram and I absolutely love his posts and his realness when it comes to disability. I'm an incomplete para and full-time manual wheelchair user who struggles a lot with their own identity as a disabled person and dealing with internalized ableism and all the ignorance us Crips have to go through every day. It's just so refreshing to listen to a podcast and not feel so goddamn alone in this world. Thank you, and keep it up. Society needs to learn to have more of a Crip lens, and I'm sure this will help with that. So
that's so sweet.
KLD, Love you. Appreciate that. That was
That's awesome. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't. That's
That's
that's a
nice.
challenging part. Is like
Some of these you know, and some they don't.
You get to make up your own
Nickname,
username and nickname on these.
I was pretty confident I knew which one your mom was.
Yeah.
The way that it was worded, I was like, that's definitely
OMG super fan.
Yeah. Okay, I got another good one.
Love it.
This one's from AMH0819. So I have no idea who this is, but it says these guys are legit. I started listening and watching Richard on YouTube as his channel took off right after I became a wheelchair user. I can't even describe how helpful those videos were in the time I needed them the most. But the podcast is a huge step in normalizing people with disabilities. It shows the side of them that they are just guys being guys, and it's cool to hear the person beyond the disability and will hopefully open up more minds to the idea that the wheelchair users are just people using a wheelchair and it doesn't define every aspect of who they are. I look forward to hearing what they're up to as time goes on.
Yeah, that was actually one that I had screenshotted and saved too.
It was such a good one.
No,
honestly.
it doesn't matter. It's not like we're stealing these from any other, but I was going to read it and I saw that you had, and I was like, oh, dang, that was a good one.
It was a really good one, man. Because I think that encapsulates it a lot. It's like, yeah, especially the first like 4 or 5 episodes, especially the first 4, where we dove a lot into like wheelchair stuff. But I think it was also because you have a lot of like backstory to unpack that we just have to get into. It's like the elephant in the room.
I mean, our Patreon podcast, the first, I think 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 episodes were pretty much just all about me and my backstory.
Yeah.
Like one about this part of my backstory and one about this part of my backstory, another one about this part of my backstory. And it's like, geez, I got so much to unpack.
It is true. I mean, I
that
feel
podcast's
like,
still available if anybody's like truly interested. Like it's
yeah,
like
you
if
can go on Patreon,
if
pay
you're the
$1.
kind of person that when they go buy movies, they get the extended cut, they get the director's commentary, and they watch all the bonuses, like that's this behind the scenes.
That is
for
the
you.
equivalent for sure. The OG behind the scenes podcast. That is kind of crazy because we started recording that podcast before we even started releasing videos on YouTube, which is nuts.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, like we were cocky little shits, but
yeah,
I think it's because we knew we had something important to share.
Totally.
Like it's not like we were calling our shots, like we weren't, but we were definitely like anticipating growth. Like we knew we had something valuable. It's kind of like
for sure.
It's like the guys that had Bitcoin before it peaked and they knew it was important, so they were preaching Bitcoin before it hit, and then when it finally hit, they were like, "See, I told you." You know, when you know you have something that is emerging and disruptive, and we got something cool here.
Totally.
All right,
this another one.
This one is from my friend Cruz. I mentioned him in a
Cruzy baby,
in a
what
previous
up,
podcast. Dude, Cruz is a quad who uses a sip and puff, which means that like all of his limbs are mostly useless.
And he drives his wheelchair with his mouth, basically.
Yeah, basically drives his wheelchair with his mouth, and he like paints
with his mouth.
And then he also has like his own interview show where he puts people in a chair,
another powered chair
that's just like his, where you're all like strapped in and everything. And I like Cruz.
It's a unique concept. I actually saw that for the first time, and I was like, oh, he only interviews quads. And then I'm like, oh, these are able-bodied people that he puts in a wheelchair.
Yep.
While he's interviewing them.
Yeah.
So they get to feel what it's like.
Well, I mean, you think about when Louis sat in the chair for an hour and he got out and cut the tape off his legs, and he's like, oh man, even there for an hour, like my legs are sore and they're numb and it's all tight and all stuck together, and it's like,
yep.
Yeah, it's not fun to be in these chairs. But it says
my balls was hot.
All right, here's a review from Cruz. Love listening to you guys. Great opinions coming from 2 different perspectives. Love the more broad topics and a little more uncut approach and conversations that are going on.
That's exactly what we doing over here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got one more. This one's a quick one from DigiDoc. It says absolutely groundbreaking and frankly hilarious. I definitely enjoy listening. It's like a breath of fresh air in a world of crummy podcasts.
I liked that one too. That was a good one. I've also been really appreciating the people that have been commenting on our humor, because I don't think we're funny, but apparently we're pretty damn funny.
I think we're funny together. I mean, I've definitely been called funny in my lifetime. The thing is, I think there are some people that not their life, but like constantly they're trying to be the class clown, you know, like they're trying to be the funniest in the room constantly. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I'm just always silly. Like I am cracking jokes a lot, and I love making people laugh, and I love laughing, But I think that's more the motivation is that I love laughing. Like I'll crack jokes because I want to laugh.
We're just trying to have a silly goose time.
Just a freaking silly goose time, and that's it.
I think about what I meant was I don't think we're funny. I meant like this isn't a comedy podcast.
Yeah.
Like in no way this is a comedy podcast.
Yeah, but kind of.
We have humor.
Totally.
Humor,
I think any
important.
good speaker or any good entertainer has to have some element of comedy to keep it engaging at some level. I mean,
it diffuses and makes you laugh and like laugh. There's no better way to re-engage an audience than it is to make them laugh.
You think about the best teachers, you know, you were homeschooled, but I think about all the best teachers I had growing up, like all of my favorite ones injected a lot of humor. Like they're funny, you know, they kept the class fun. And I think when you're just trying to like relay information in a dry way, it's like, geez, freaking kill me.
Well, it's the same way of like, there's a lot of good videos out there about wheelchair and wheelchair life, but it's just people sitting in front of a camera talking. And it's like, I can't engage with that. Like
exactly.
My flying video, still popping, gonna be popping for a long time. It's growing. It's never stopped.
What's a bad baby? They ain't gonna stop me, and they ain't never gonna stop me.
And it's. I remember doing research for that video, and I found a ton of videos where they just sat there and talked about the process, and it's like, no, we gotta show them the process because that's so different. Totally. And I think that's why that video very quickly climbed to the top.
I agree. I totally agree. I think a lot of people, it's easier to not show it. Frankly, it's just easier to just say it on camera, like talk about the experience, but it's much harder to document the whole thing because you've got to be intentional and put effort behind it. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I think that's the case with a lot of online content, dude. Like there's probably a lot of people that have more important things to say than us, but like they're not putting in the sweat equity or, you know, figuring out how to do all the correct audio stuff and video stuff and all that. And it's, it shows, you know, when you have that high quality caliber of content, there's just a certain level that you reach and people are like, oh, and this actually brings me to my next point, which is I want to talk about Apple Podcasts and this whole new and noteworthy thing that we've been pushing because it is pretty fascinating. We've been, you know, like one of the biggest things we've been saying is like, please go rate, review on Apple Podcasts. It's going to help us get the show out to more people. You know, we'll get on the new noteworthy page, all this kind of stuff. And I got a message from my friend Matt B. Davis, who runs the Atlanta podcast and the Obstacle Racing Media podcast. He's been doing this for like 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know how long, but he's been in it for a long time. And his message this morning, he texts me and he goes, "Hey man, reached out to Jay, my buddy who oversees content at How Stuff Works, which is in Atlanta actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Big freaking deal.
Huge.
Produced the Atlanta Monster, speaks all over the world, and has convos with top folks at iTunes and Spotify all the time.
Wait, what was his friend's name again?
Jay.
Oh,
he's like the head of How Stuff Works.
I know Payne Lindsay, who did the Atlanta Monster.
Yeah.
Payne Lindsay, oh my God, he's got. I'll consume anything Payne Lindsay. The dude is awesome. My favorite one, and this was kind of his first one, was Up and Vanished.
Oh yeah,
which was a story.
I haven't listened to like any of those podcasts,
dude.
I haven't listened to the Atlanta Monster. I haven't listened to Up and Vanished. I need to. I listened to a lot of like
Atlanta
comedy.
Monster got really conspiracy theory, and I had to go away from that because I can't stand conspiracies. They just drive me nuts. But the story of Tara Grinstead with Up and Vanished ended with 2 people getting arrested and convicted. Like he helped solve that case by just investigating it and writing a story about it. And then he's got just a bunch of other podcasts that are just like, he's a compelling storyteller. Like you're there. You're like on edge. Like it's Payne Lindsay's good.
Dope. Well, so this guy's definitely legit. And he says, I reached out to Jay and he said, no, New and Noteworthy is editorially curated. Reviews don't even influence chart ratings. That's his answer to, quote unquote, will lots of reviews in a few days work? Which is what I thought anyways, as I have discussed this in the last. I mean, they certainly don't hurt that your friends are helping, but thought I'd help dispel a myth. Also, quote unquote, reviews help other people find the show. Not really. So my response to that is, this is what I texted him. I knew it was curated by humans at iTunes, but we're just trying to get their attention since we don't have a connection there. Seems like it's the only way to break through to new and noteworthy, because I have had friends who had like 1,000 downloads and 100 reviews in the first week, and they got onto new and noteworthy. So we're just trying to replicate that. And I meant by reviews help people find the show in the same way that we were hoping more reviews would get us on new and noteworthy, therefore indirectly helping people find the show. Like, having tons of reviews isn't going to be like people are like, oh, I found the show because I saw all those reviews. It's like, no, getting the reviews is going to help us hopefully get on new and noteworthy, which is going to hopefully help people find the show. So it's not like we're saying like, oh, by putting the reviews, tons of people are going to read the reviews. I liken it to this. If you go to a YouTube page that has like 5 videos and like no views, you're not going to subscribe. But if you go to a podcast that has like, 5, 6 episodes, you say it just launched and it already has 100 reviews, you're like, oh shit, people listen.
Yeah.
Like I saw Bob Menery's podcast. It has like 5,000 reviews and it just launched like earlier this year. And it's like, holy shit, that guy has some pull, and it means people are actually listening. And that's, I think, what we're really trying to do here. Cause it's like, number one, and also I was saying like the whole 24-hour thing on my story. I was like, we need it in 24 hours. And apparently it does help to, in those 24-hour windows. That's how like Apple calculates their stuff. Who knows? It's kind of a mystery. But the thing is like,
it's a sense of urgency.
I was putting a sense of urgency on my audience, because it's like, I know you're eventually probably going to go do it, but I want you to do it now so that we can jumpstart this whole process, and we're not waiting 6 months down the road to get on, because you can get on new and noteworthy later down the road. There's plenty of podcasts on new and noteworthy right now that are like a year old, and it's like, they're not new, but they're noteworthy, I guess.
And there are a lot of new.
It should be new or noteworthy
that have almost no reviews, and they're kind of crap, but it's because there's a connection.
Yeah, and that's what I said to him.
There's a huge network attached. It's like the YouTube trending page. Like you'd have to be dumb to not know that like that stuff was put on trending.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
it's not even trending. It's literally just the new and noteworthy section, and they have connections. It's like, oh, Reese Witherspoon's podcast. Nah shit, it's going to get on new and noteworthy because it's noteworthy that Reese Witherspoon is starting a podcast. Granted, it has 2 episodes and 10 reviews, but don't mind that. It's the fact that Reese Witherspoon, holy crap. And that's honestly what's kind of crazy about podcasting, and why I'm so passionate about it, is because it's very obvious that this is the way that media is going. People are constantly consuming things passively now. People don't have time to sit down and watch days and days of content. I mean, back in the day, there was only so much content to consume, and now there's just an endless tidal wave of shit coming your way. I mean, we've got freaking Netflix, Google Plus, or Disney Plus, Hulu. You've got the stuff that's on actual TV still. You've got all of YouTube. Like
the infinity supply on your phone.
And then you've got tons of stuff on social media. We are getting content fatigue, and audio is definitely the move, because you can do it while still going about your day. I mean, I think about like, I'm less productive when I'm not listening to podcasts because I get distracted. But if I'm listening to a podcast, I can like focus on like doing menial tasks that I can't force myself to do otherwise.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I say I listen to podcasts all day, every day. It's because one, I'm usually alone all day, every day. So it's nice to feel like I'm a fly on the wall and a part of a conversation, or I'm like hanging out with friends in the car. It also makes all of my work that I hate doing less sucky. Like I don't want to run errands. I don't want to go to doctor's appointments. I don't want to go grocery shopping. I don't want to clean and cook. And, that's just like, ugh. But I do because I'm having a fun time while I'm doing it. It doesn't feel like wasted time.
Exactly.
Like, I hate feeling like I've wasted time. And then there's some podcasts I listen to that's just for fun. There's some podcasts I listen to learn. And then if I want to go even more deep down, like the learning rabbit trail, I'll get an audiobook. And I like audiobooks a lot, especially if they're personal development audiobooks, because I get to do 2 things at once that are really good for me. I get to listen to an audiobook while I'm at the gym, or while I'm grocery shopping, or while I'm, doing just admin work. And kill me admin work. I hate admin work so much, but it makes it less terrible if I'm...
Totally. I mean, I agree 100% with that. I think podcasts are actually changing the world and changing the way we live our lives and go about things and learn things, and it's beautiful. Like, it's honestly awesome, and that's why I'm so passionate about it too, because I think especially if people are enjoying it, give them more. Like I think about how much I love podcasts, and hopefully people enjoy our show as much as we like our favorites.
Sometimes I can get overwhelmed with podcasts, like Joe Rogan, for example. He'll drop 7 or 10 in a week, and I'm like, dude, I can't keep up with that. But then there's some people that'll drop one a week, and I'm like, ooh, I'd like more. Or they'll drop 2 a week, and I'm like, okay, I can handle that. But some will drop
like
three or 4 or 5, and I'm like, okay, guys, that's too much.
I can kind of get with that. I think I have two schools of thought with the Joe Rogan thing, because on one hand, I think about it like Gary Vee, where he just puts out so much that you can't possibly keep up if you have a life, which makes his hardcore super fans that do consume everything the hardest of hardcore. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
if there's someone who's listening to every single Rogan episode, they are a super fan in the most intense form of the word, you know? Like, they are literally spending days of their life listening, you know, if not weeks and months over time. Like, it's insane. I think about it. I've probably listened to Joe for like a straight week of my life, like literally.
Yeah, the people that I think about that are major podcasts and consumers are the people that do a lot of work throughout the day, that their hands are busy, but their mind is free.
Exactly.
So that can be everyone from a mom to someone who runs a catering business to someone who works in an office. Like, pretty much
Truck drivers.
You can find anywhere to listen to podcasts. Like, anywhere to listen to podcasts.
The one that you can't do, video editing. You cannot listen to podcasts while video editing.
True.
It's very tragic. I wish that I could, but I can't. You can kind of sometimes listen to music in the background. I know AJ sometimes does, because like on the breaking the set. But
Yeah, like listening to like classical music or lo-fi, like Richard's been recommending, like it makes the process so much more relaxed. It's just like boop, 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 boop.
yeah, because if you're editing just vocals, like if you're just editing a podcast, like there's no music in the background, so you can add the music to make it more of an enjoyable experience for you. But if you're editing, like for example, a lot of the Wheels to Walking videos, just the style that I edit to the music so much that a lot of times it's difficult to do that. But recently we've been doing a lot more like talking head type of stuff, so I could if I wanted to. But like, for example, the Texas hunting video, there was no way I was like listening to music while editing that whole thing. It was just too much.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of when I'm doing work that requires heavy concentration. I'm a big fan of down tempo, lyricless stuff. Things like lo-fi hip hop, jazz, chill hop, like anything that is not anxiety based, you know, not upbeat, and anything that has no lyrics, because when there's lyrics, my brain goes, ooh, listen to those lyrics and not the thoughts in your head.
Exactly.
You know, it like scrambles my brain.
If you know the songs really well, you can get around that, I think. But especially if it's a song you don't know, like if you're just on shuffle on Spotify, there's no way I'm not kind of focusing on the lyrics, because it's like I don't know them, so I'm listening to it for the first time. But when you listen to a song so much that you know the lyrics, it's almost like part of the melody of the. It's like a part of the instrumental almost at that point in your brain, as far as like analyzing words for what they mean, you know. But let's we kind of got away from our like launch talk, which was nuts, by the way. Let's talk about our freaking 24-hour madness our launch.
We need to talk about our basically 12 to 12. I got 3 hours of sleep. You got maybe 5 hours of sleep.
Maybe
AJ,
Dude, yeah, I was so determined to get those episodes just like as best as possible. I was up till 9 a.m., folks.
So I showed up Tuesday at like 10 or 12. And the night before, we had stayed up all night writing a to-do list on a whiteboard, and it probably had 50 to-dos on it. And each of those to-dos probably had like 3 or 4 sub to-dos underneath it. So every one thing was like multiple things. And we just started like delegate, like we were like, okay, this comes out on the 16th.
I don't know if people understand fully what we're talking about. We were launching the podcast fully, meaning we had to upload everything. We had to get all the promos ready. We had to make sure the website was ready to go. We had to make sure that everything was live on every single platform. We literally had a whole whiteboard of just items to check off. Like we just had a lot of we had a lot of work to do.
The whiteboard was basically full.
Pretty much.
I mean, it was we had, let's see, like I want to say 10 to 15 outlets and channels and direction we had to release at the same time within an hour, and everything had to be primed and prepped and ready.
We literally
for
had
that.
The Wheels to Walking main channel, the full podcast YouTube channel, the Clips podcast YouTube channel, our website, Patreon, Wheels to Walking Libsyn, which is the audio platform, Wheels to Walking Instagram, Wheels to Walking Facebook, Wheels to Walking TikTok, the Andrew Deitch Podcast Libsyn, the Andrew Deitch Podcast website, the Andrew Deitch Podcast Instagram, the Andrew Deitch Podcast Facebook, my personal Instagram, my personal Facebook, my Andrew Deitch Podcast email list, our Facebook group that we just created, by the way, which you can join. And then also just peer-to-peer texting, like texting everyone, telling them about the new podcast.
And I'm still doing that right now.
It was absolute madness.
And keep in mind, it was only 3 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
in addition to editing all the clips and the actual physical medium that you're listening to, or not physical, the actual media that you're listening to right now, especially if you're like on YouTube and all that, like there's just a lot of behind the scenes shit that was going on.
Yeah. And we definitely laid out this huge plan, and I was like, okay, I'll be over here tomorrow. And then I came over and we worked until about 12 or 1, and I was like,
I think it was more like 3 or 4, I thought.
well, let me finish. I'm not finished.
Okay.
And then at that point I was like, I don't feel comfortable going home until this is done. And because I could go home and sleep and wake up and be back here at 9 or 8, and then have a couple of more hours. I was like, but we're on such a roll here. Like, we're on momentum here. Like, I was like, let me run back to my house, get my meds, like get some food. Let's get caffeined up and let's just rock this all night.
AJ and I were kind of like, yeah, we're not going to sleep. Like we were both almost kind of under that assumption already. Like we were kind of like, yeah, when you suggested the overnight, the all-nighter, we were kind of like, yeah, we were kind of already thinking that, to be honest. Like we got a lot of shit to finish.
Well, I knew that, but
it was good.
But I wasn't about to leave you guys. Like,
no.
I felt like
we appreciate
I took that role, and I was like, if anything, I can be an organized accountability monster right now. I was like, like, Andrew, what are you doing? AJ, what are you doing? Okay, are you finished? What can we do next? All right, this is what I need in order to put this stuff over here. What do you need to move over here? Like, I kind of played this like little managerial role where I was like managing the whiteboard and all the tasks and what everyone was up to, and like running and getting food and energy drinks and like just putting, like, because I didn't have a lot of laborious work to do.
Yeah.
I had a lot of organizational work to do and a lot of like timing and launching and scheduling, but all the labor landed on you guys. And I wasn't about to leave and be like, all right, see you guys in the morning later. Like, I've done launches before for big companies, and like that's just not how it works. Like, you pretty much have to have a team of people that stick around and are in close quarters. That's why I wanted to come over. I'm like, we need to be close so that we can just like walk across the hall and be like, hey, I need this.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, I think like those nights are kind of some of those nights where it's like, we're not going to forget those, because those are the nights where it's like, we're putting in all this work. No one's asking for this shit, but like, it's going to change a lot of things. I mean, I'm so proud of like what we've already created and what we're going to create. Like it's just freaking awesome. Like I'm so stoked about like how it all went down. Like it was just really cool, and I'm just so stoked that it's finally out into the world and people are able to listen, and that we've got our new studio space all set up. Like we've been talking about transitioning from the Andrew Deitch podcast to this podcast for like so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we started talking about it back in,
it was like back in
July, September,
July to August.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe it was like August where we were like, yeah, let's do this. Because AJ and I lived together. We moved into our house towards the end of like May, I think it was. Maybe it was in the beginning of May, actually. And yeah, that was just it was a weird time because like I just moved. I had my podcast studio in Richard's condo, if anyone doesn't know that already. And then basically I reached a point where I was like, dude, this Wheels to Walking podcast is picking up a lot of steam, and I think it's time that we like transition. And I remember that conversation we had in the bathroom, dude. Yeah, that was like a big deal.
I remember you've been saying for a long time, like, yo, man, like, what we need to do the Wheels to Walking podcast. Let's get it public. And I was game from the beginning, but I needed you to figure out that in order to do that, you kind of had to retire the Andrew Deitch podcast.
Yeah, a little bit.
And
Which was already happening, by the way, because we were doing the Wheels to Walking podcast every single week. And the Andrew Deitch podcast was supposed to be a weekly show, but it was just always like falling behind because I didn't have a guest, or like, you know, we were just swamped with Wheels to Walking stuff or whatever. And so it was like we were consistent as fuck with the Wheels to Walking podcast, but the AD podcast was just like falling by the wayside, sort of.
Mm-hmm. And it was one of these things that like from the beginning, like this was always about like the AD podcast. Like I wanted you to have the AD podcast. I wanted you did not lose your thing, and I wanted,
it's my baby.
This is your baby, and I wanted you to, if you did change your mind, to make it on your own realization. Like I was gonna not put any pressure or mention it, but I kept noticing that you would always put more time and attention and effort into Wheels to Walking stuff instead of into your other stuff. But then
if you think about it, I mean, like with Wheels to Walking, there's just a bigger audience and a bigger like need for it, I guess. Like there was already, if I didn't post an AD podcast, you know, people would care, but not as many people that would miss a Wheels to Walking episode, or even you know, like there was like money behind it, there's production behind it, we were filming all the time, like, you know, it was just a different beast.
Yeah, I remember it was when we had that talk in the bathroom. I don't know why we were in the bathroom, honestly.
I think it was because I was like leaving. We had just ended like the Wheels to Walking podcast, and then we were just like
washing my
peeing
hands
or whatever, and then like we were crossing streams, and then I like locked eyes with Richard, and I was like, dude, I think we need to quit the AD podcast, and then we made out. It was hot. We didn't kiss, but we did cross streams and we did lock eyes. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I remember at that point I was like, I remember I asked him, I was like, is that what you want to do? And he's like, yeah. I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I have this AD podcast over here that I keep putting logs on the fire, but the fire's not lit. It's like smoldering a little bit, and like maybe it could catch fire, but it's not lit. He's like, I want to put the logs on the fire of Wheels to Walking because I know that fire's burning. He's like, and I know by adding more logs, it's gonna make it burn hotter versus if I put more logs on my fire, I might suffocate it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big proponent of like the Tarzan method. Casey Neistat talks about it, but he didn't invent it. But it's basically this idea that Tarzan's trying to get across the jungle. There's a million vines that he could reach, but each vine represents like an opportunity in your life, right? And you're trying to get to the other side, which is whatever success is, you know? And people think there's like a straight line to success. Oh, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and you do this, and it should be all calculated, and you should have a plan. But the truth is, like in life, you have opportunities that are presented. Maybe there's 3, and you can only choose one, you know? And you've got to take that vine, and you're going to swing. That vine is going to lead you to more vines, and you're going to have to swing with that vine. And maybe one of those vines might accidentally bring you a little bit backwards, but then that next vine might even bring you way further than the other vine would have.
But you have to let go and reach forward every time.
Exactly, but there's never a straight path across the jungle. It's always going to be zigzagging, and that's exactly what was happening with the AD podcast. It was like, okay, I've reached a point with this where I feel like we've got the production on lock, we've got the video on lock, I've got, you know, AJ on board with the team. Like there's all these structures in place. The only thing missing is, again, like it was just kind of like lacking that hardcore fan base that Wheels to Walking already had. And I knew that if I kept going with the Andrew Deitch podcast, I could reach that because I was getting better and better guests. I was getting better as an interviewer. More people were DMing me about how much they were loving the podcast. It wasn't like it was going badly. I was still getting listeners, but it was just like, it didn't feel like the growth that was just so explosive with Wheels to Walking, and it just felt like, here's my freaking vine, dude. Like I need to swing on this next vine, and we kind of made that hardcore decision. Like, yeah, we're gonna make this transition.
Yeah, and I think
took longer than we thought.
As we've been doing all these steps, it's becoming more and more and more real with every single time. But I think it got the most real for me and the most real for you kind of at the same time. And that was around like, so we launched everything like around between 12 and 2 on Wednesday. And around 10 o'clock, I hadn't even had time to think about like, oh no, what are people going to think of this? You know, like, are they going to like me? Are they going to listen? Like,
Yeah, and I'd already forgotten about how badass all the graphics and branding and everything was, because I've been staring at it for the past like 3 months, like just making it all. Because I don't know if everyone knows this, but I designed the whole website. I've designed the, you know, all the graphics for the show and everything. I didn't do the photography for the graphics, but that was Simon Needham. He's a beast.
We love Simon. Hey, Simon, if you're listening, what's up?
What up, Simon? But like I was so stoked on all that stuff right when I made it, but I've just been staring at it, and like we've been just doing like minor little iterations and roadblocks and random little things that I like got. It just became like the normal, and so I forgot about the fact when people see it, like, whoa, this is crazy, this is cool, you know, like that's kind of what I'm on the same page. Like I took a second to be like, holy shit, people are actually going to be like seeing and listening to this for the first time.
Yeah, and then I kind of started to get a little anxious and nervous, which if you guys know me, I just don't. Like, I don't get nervous or anxious about anything. I just do things and just like flop it out there and let it happen. But I was like, oh, I haven't even had time to think about like what people will think. And I'm like, I don't care what people think. But anyhow, it was like at that moment that it got really real for the both of us, especially when we started hitting the upload and like the done and the complete and the save buttons, and like every time something went live, it was like, oh, there it is.
Things were kind of live for like 24 hours where like they were up, but we hadn't promoted it in anywhere where anyone would know.
Yeah.
So like as soon as we like started talking about it, it was like, whoa, this is real
like
now.
The promo engine machine, and then it got to at one point, this was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole time. AJ was up till like 9 or 10 a.m. and
so he was passed out.
He passed out from the day before. He was done, and
he didn't need to post anything.
He
had done his share.
You would fall.
I've already done all my posting.
Yeah, you would fallen asleep around 5, and then got back about 9. I got to sleep at like 6:30 or 7.
Didn't you wake me up in my room?
Yeah, I came out. Yeah.
I literally passed out in my room, and my office is connected to my room. So AJ and Richard were still kind of working.
Not kind of working. We definitely were still working. Yeah.
I fell asleep, and then I, of course, fell asleep with the lights on, classic Andrew. And then Richard literally already had gone to his house, fallen asleep, and then came back to my house and like woke me up. And like, yo, dude, what up? And I'm like, what?
Like time to do stuff. But yeah, so I got like a couple hours of sleep. You got a little bit more because like when you fell asleep, there was more stuff to do, but like you were dead.
I was dead to the world. I like couldn't make myself do anything more.
You were dead, and I knew it. So I got all done that I could get done. He got all done that he could get done, and I was like, oh, time for me to go and come back. And then mainly, like, you hadn't done any out of that list that we went through on the whiteboard. You really hadn't done any of the like 80 podcast stuff. So when you started doing that, you would like we always do, we bounce captions and ideas and topics and ideas for promo off of each other. And at one time you were like reading me back one caption you were about to post, and you started just crying. You started just like,
I was like about to post it, and I was like,
you're like, like you just started like
I was
fucking
crying.
like
you
bawling.
Want to read it? Should I read it?
Yeah, maybe you start crying again. But it was,
I don't know.
It was really a special moment because I knew that they were like happy tears, but it was still like sad tears at the same time, because it was like you were like grieving the death of your baby while simultaneously getting 2 babies at the same time. It was like, goodbye 80 podcast, hello Wheels to Walking. This, but like it was just this moment where and we just like hugged for like a good like 10-15 seconds.
Yeah, you're like, let it out, bro.
Let it out, bro. Because it was like
it was very happy. It was happy tears.
It was special. Yeah.
Here, I'll read the post. I said, yesterday I announced that I was ending my podcast, but my journey as a podcast host is far from over. 2 years ago, I met Richard Corbett for the first time to record episode 47 of the 80 podcast. We sat down and he told his powerful story of spinal cord injury, addiction, suicide, and recovery publicly for the first time. This was the exact reason why I started my podcast, to give people a platform where they could share their stories and talk about deep subjects. After listening to his episode over and over, Richard realized that he had something to say and decided he wanted to create something even bigger. I started working as his producer full-time, and he let me build my podcast studio in his condo. We were an amazing team, and our business relationship and friendship grew stronger and stronger. Over the past year, Richard and I have been traveling around the country shooting videos on the Wheels to Walking YouTube channel. 7 million views later, we realized that we had a lot more to talk about than just wheelchair stuff, but I knew that I couldn't just keep having him as a guest on the 80 podcast. Today, we're launching our brand new weekly show where we talk about current events, what it's like being full-time YouTubers, and dissect our unique friendship/business relationship. If you've been a fan of the ADP, I know you'll really enjoy the Wheels to Walking podcast. This is a huge step for me to totally change up my platform, but I know this is the right move. First 6 episodes are live now. Everywhere you listen to podcasts, please go give us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Where did you start weeping?
I think it was a good question.
Well, at one point you said, "I'm actually starting to cry while reading this," and I thought you were like typing that out, but you were like dead ass.
I was saying that, and then when I said it, it was like the floodgates opened because I was like acknowledging the tears because. Like, even right now, I'm like, I could, like, if I wanted to cry, I probably could, like, if I got in my feels about what I read, but I was, like, just objectively reading the words.
You're like, I am a robot.
But when I was typing the caption, I had to, like, think those emotions and think those feelings to get the words to come out. So I was, like, kind of already in my feels, like, typing it, and then I was already, like, sleep deprived and, like, caffeine, Dude, still kind of, like, weirdly caffeinated from the night before. It was just like a combination of just like all these things where like, why are you crying? I don't know. Like
anyone who's ever pulled an all-nighter and then
delirious.
And then you're so stemmed up on caffeine, you're sleep deprived, you're food deprived, you feel like a sleep hangover.
Yeah,
I have it's like, because I've had this before. It's like your brain and like your insides are just like all like dead. But your hands are like, you know, shaking, and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
It's like if you like spent the whole night like setting something up. I mean, it's literally the only thing you can liken it to is like launching something or staying all night up to do something crazy.
It reminds me of a couple of things. Thing number one, church lock-ins. You guys remember lock-ins?
Bro, and we would cry too.
Dude, lock-ins.
Dude, I remember crying at church at lock-ins.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know what a lock-in is, basically it's like a youth group thing where you all go hang out at the church and they literally lock you inside of the church. So one room will be like...
It's not as sinister as it sounds.
Yeah, one room will be like where the video games are, and one is where the pizza and the Mountain Dew is, and one is like where the board games are, and one is like where the bouncy house is, and it's like basically you just run amok. You just run amok in the church. And there's always
how accurate that is.
And everyone would like between like 4, 5, and 6, like start to fall asleep, but there was always those like a couple of dickheads, and I was always one of them who would be like, "Come on, guys, let's call the all-nighter. We gotta stay up all night. Mountain Dew, sugar, pizza, yeah." You know, like everyone would be trying to like sleep on.
I just imagine you saying those actual words: Mountain Dew, pizza, sugar, yeah.
No,
and
like,
your friends are just like,
I remember one time people were so mad at me. There was this whole bouncy house area that people had turned into beds so they could like sleep on.
Yeah.
And my obnoxious ass gets on it and starts jumping around and like jumping and doing flips, and everyone's like, "Yo, we're trying to chill." And I was like, "This is the bouncy house for bouncing."
It's called a bouncy house for a reason. If you didn't want to get bounced, you shouldn't have slept here.
Yeah, so I remember that, and I also remember like when I worked at Apple, I was on the Apple Visuals team, and if you guys don't know much about Apple, they convert the entire store overnight whenever a new product is launched. So
I'm not familiar with that company. Can you elaborate?
No, I'm not gonna elaborate at all. Thank you. So the store closes at 10, and by like 7 or 8 or 9 the next morning, you pretty much have to be completely done, and you do the entire store. We're talking everything gets completely redone.
I mean, if you think about it, whenever they do a product launch, you walk into Apple and you're like, "Oh, they already got the new shirts, and they already got all the displays are different, and everything." Whoa, the whole store is different.
The only thing that stays the same is the floor and the tables. That's it. Everything else.
But there's different products on the tables.
No, I mean just like the physical wood tables.
Yeah, the physical wood tables don't move.
So like the signage and the products and the software and the signs and the merchandise and the accessories and the clothing and the name, like the whole place gets a whole fresh wipe. And there's usually a team of like, 30, 40, 50 people, depending on how big the store is, and you just stay up all night, and it's just debauchery, like loud music, and people are in headphones, and, there's always problems, and, like one thing doesn't work, and something doesn't work, and then some people get put on teams, like, you're responsible for putting all the new apps on the new phones, and you're responsible for flashing all the new hard drives for the display computers, and you're responsible for putting up the new signs on the walls, and the front of store displays were always the hardest, the ones that go in front of the windows near the doors.
They're like hanging?
Well, they're massive. They're like the size of cars, and you have to like build them and design them. And some of them are like I remember one time when the iPhone color came out, we had to hang up
the 4C or the 5C.
5C. It was an entire window of just like balls hanging from a string, but those balls hanging from a string designed something.
Yeah, I remember that actually.
So we had to build that from the ground up. with like using these like foam balls and like string. And
It was
it's
basically the way that they were hanging like formed a shape. And they just like sent you all the balls and strings and were like, make this.
well, I mean, you also get like really
A template.
detailed template designs, and like it was wild. But I remember, we would always the part of the visuals team would stay to what we called clap in the customers. So all the people that like waited in line or camped out overnight were the first to buy the stuff in the store, and they would all
That's the weirdest retail experience.
they would all run in, and we'd all be like, "Yeah, way to go! You just decided to wait in line for an iPhone.
So
Good
white.
job, yeah." But like, I remember being like hallucinating, being like, my brain thinks it's morning time because my circadian rhythm just started. I'm sleep deprived and overly caffeinated, and I'm seeing shapes on the walls. Like, I'm tripping out hard, and then you would just go home and pass out for a whole day. And if you were unlucky enough, you'd get scheduled for like a 4 o'clock shift. And it's like, no, I get the whole next day off. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But wasn't there like hundreds of people on staff?
I mean,
At the Apple Store, yeah.
the store itself has like hundreds of people, yeah. And
That's kind of a dick move to put someone on staff that stayed up all night when there's like all these other people that.
Well, it's
could
launch
do
day.
it.
They need them.
we needed everybody, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like all hands on deck sort of
It's
deal.
literally all hands on deck type of thing. It's a madhouse. It's chaos, but like in the best kind of way. It's organized chaos. My favorite kind of chaos.
Time to introduce a little chaos.
Order and chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are listening to this about Christmas time, or a little bit
Yeah,
after
a little after Christmas.
A little bit after
well,
Christmas.
I mean, if they're listening to it in real time, who knows? They could be listening into it in July of 2032. But
Christmas
they are-
2019. Why did I almost say 2020?
I don't know, because you got that 2020 vision sign. 2020, big things coming, you know what I'm saying? New
It's
year,
2020.
new me.
Got that 2020 vision. I can see the future. It's clear. Big things coming.
Do you set New Year's resolutions?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
The reason why I don't is because if you want to start something new, do it now. Why do you have to wait?
Make your thing resolute now. Like, why
Do it now.
the calendar doesn't affect it, dude. Yeah, that was another thing. That what are your feelings around New Year's Eve? Is that a holiday?
I mean, no.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The older I've gotten, the less I care about it, dude.
Yeah,
The less I care, because it's literally just another day.
Yeah, not to throw my mom under the bus here, because she's probably listening to this, but she was like flabbergasted the other day when I told her I didn't want to go to this Christmas Eve party with our family. I'm like, no, I don't want to go. She's like, but it's a party. I'm like, I don't want, like, if I wanted to party, I could go to a party every night of the week. I've got so many friends. I could go to a party every night of the week. Do you hear me right now? I'm just sounded like I was like flexing about that, but I'm not saying that to be obnoxious. I'm being serious. It's like, if I want to go party, if I want to go like have a social life and have fun and play board games and blah blah blah, it's like I could go do those things, but I choose to like work a lot because I'm passionate about what I'm doing and like creating. I'm busy like doing this shit and like making Wheels to Walking videos. Like, I don't, just because it's Christmas Eve doesn't mean I like automatically just want to go do this. Like, I if I wanted to do those things, I could do them. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, I think it's about staying with your family and.
yeah, but that was the thing. I said, if you want to have a family night where we like stay in and like play board games or like do something fun as a family,
Or, like, hang out together.
that's fine. But like they were like inviting me to go to this like random Christmas Eve party with their friends, and I'm like,
Nah.
I don't want to go there. Like, yeah, sure, if you want to plan like a game night. And she actually did tell them that they weren't coming, and we are going to do something like that, which I'm happy about. Like, I'm stoked. But yeah, it was just funny because it's like, just because it's New Year's Eve, like New Year's Eve is not a holiday. You know what I mean?
New Year's Eve is just one
It's
of
just
those
the night
nights
before.
that everyone agrees it's okay to get blackout drunk. You know, like no matter who you are in life, if you're like a mom or a CEO or a teenager, like, it doesn't matter. Get hammered. Like, everyone agrees. Like,
I've never seen my parents hammered.
New Year's Eve is the night of debauchery, and like, okay, cool, whatever. Christmas Eve used to be special as a kid because you'd like sleep next to the tree and wake up in the morning and
Would you sleep next to the tree?
hell yeah. And we
Really?
also
I wasn't allowed to sleep next to the tree because my parents still had to like put out all the shit.
well, we would
I
do
mean, Santa.
We would do Christmas Eve's Eve, and on Christmas Eve's Eve,
I think that's Christmas Adam.
whatever. We would. I can't really
I've
remember.
actually heard
I
that
really
before.
can't. We get one present. We get to pick out one present. I think.
Oh, you could open up one on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve.
I can't remember, to be honest. I think it was Christmas Eve, and it was enough to just like, hey guys, chill out, relax. You don't have to rush into this. But
what's your? Sorry, keep going. I'll have a question for you in a second.
no, it's fine. I mean, Christmas, those things matter when you're younger.
Yeah.
You
Did you believe in Santa growing up?
No, my dad wouldn't allow that. He almost did.
Really?
He almost didn't even allow Christmas trees in our house because they were a pagan idol. They were
Really?
Yeah, because Christmas comes from paganism.
When did he kind of like leave the family though?
When I was like 8 or 9.
Okay, so I guess those are in those formative years where you would believe in Santa, so you just like didn't.
We would have Happy Birthday Jesus parties. That was
fun.
What we would do.
Did you make him a cake?
Yeah.
Really?
Seriously, cake and candles and everything. It was Happy Birthday Jesus.
Dang.
And then eventually, I think
Did anyone ever break the news that it wasn't his actual birthday? And
No.
scholars have like estimated it as probably like in the summertime because of like when the stars were aligned that way or whatever.
Yeah, or it was like, or it was maybe the 12th, or maybe
I know,
it was
it's just whatever. It's
June
just
or
funny. No one freaking knows.
whatever. But
So when we all agree that it happened.
sure.
Sure.
It's Festivus, which is It's not even.
But you were allowed to have a Christmas tree, but you almost weren't.
I do it. I don't remember. Dude,
yeah,
it's so
yeah,
young.
yeah. It's just curious.
But now, me and my family, we mostly don't do gifts with each other. We just like spending quality time. Like, quality time with each other is our gift because we don't spend a lot of quality time with each
and
other.
some of your like your sister doesn't live in state, right? One
Yeah,
of them?
I've got a sister out of state, a niece and nephew out of state, and even the sister that does live in state, I don't see a lot of because they're super busy and I'm super busy, and my mom's busy. Like, we all don't.
You got your own lives.
We don't see each other often. So when we do get the opportunity to see each other often, it's like, okay, let's just hang out with each other. You know, we'll play games, or we'll just chill, or we'll hang out, or we'll go do some activities together. It's just fun that way.
I think when you don't live together and you do have some space, that family time is like more appreciated and stuff.
Way more valued, yeah.
Because you're not all up in each other's business all the time. You're not getting on each other's nerves as much like in the day to day. So then you can actually take a step back and appreciate them for who they are and what they've done for you and like the relationship that you actually have.
And you really get to catch up like on a deep level. Like, imagine if you had like a really, really close friend that you haven't seen for 6 months and a lot of life has happened to them, and then you get to sit down and spend like a week interruption free. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, you get to kind of like go into the nitty gritty of everything that's happening in their life, and you catch up enough to last for another 6 months, basically.
Yeah.
You know,
Like that one cool cousin that you have that like you never see, but then when you do get together, you guys like hang out and click really hard. That was always fun.
yeah.
Yeah, but Christmas is interesting now, like as I'm getting older, like because I'm 25, Richard's 30, so you've kind of had a little bit more of the like adult Christmas, I feel like, than I have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Christmas is interesting because the more I've gotten older too, it's funny because I realize like I feel like the like quote unquote presents are they've taken such a back burner because like you said, it's like you don't really give each other like the big presents, but
We
at
can
the
all
same
just buy our own stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if it's something meaningful, if it's something that matters, right? So I'll say this in the podcast because like Christmas is already over. Like, the type of gifts I'm getting my girlfriend are like, I'm getting us a framed picture of us, like a canvas picture that we took together. Like, that's
that I took.
that Andrew took. That's not something she can like buy anywhere. So I'm giving her that.
Yeah, damn right you can't buy
You know,
it anymore.
I'm getting her like a gift card to the place we go out to eat a lot, like when we go to Mellow Mushroom. So like,
Ooh, Mellow Mushroom sponsored.
yeah, that'd be cool. And then I'm getting her like her lunch bag is just like disintegrating and she needs a new one. So I'm like, okay, I'll get that for her. That's valuable. And then like some other little stuff, like every time I'm in her shower and I see the razor blades that she uses, I'm like, you're gonna cut your own leg off. Like, that is a rusty, like serrated, like dull syringe that's gonna like give you tetanus. So I got her like a really
shit, maybe then she can be an amputee and be a wheelie girl.
So I got a really nice like razor set. And then also this one's halfway for me is I got her a Fashion Nova gift card because
You want her to buy some freaking booty pants.
I love how Fashion Nova looks on curvy girls. Not curvy girls, just it's like big booty girls. And I like how like some of the aesthetic of Fashion Nova, because it's like I don't know, dude. I just like Fashion Nova clothes a lot. I like Fashion Nova clothes a lot. And
whenever I think of Fashion Nova, I think of like Cardi B for some reason.
I think of Instagram ads.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, it's really affordable, high quality form fitting clothes. Like they're
How
model.
do you know it's high quality, son? You ever felt their shit? It's probably cheap as hell. It's like $20 for like a pair of pants, like $10 for a freaking shirt. It's fast fashion to the max, son. I'm not talking shit on your Christmas present. I'm just literally saying there's a reason why their shit is cheap, and there's a reason why they're killing it.
Dude, it's so cheap to make those, and it's like the money comes in from the shipping costs.
Yeah, well, it's fast fashion. I mean, it's like all made in China, and they just freaking ship it over in giant batches.
Don't rain on my parade. I'm trying to see my girl in a new top and some new bottoms, some shoes, some jewelry.
I am not shitting on your present. I am not shitting on your present. I am a fan of fast fashion. I was just merely pointing out when you said they have high quality. I was just calling you shit. I was calling you out a little bit.
But that's the kind of that's the kind of like gifts I like to
totally.
I like to give gifts more than I like to receive gifts, because sometimes when people give me gifts, I'm like, oh, I'm responsible for this now.
It's a good character trait.
Totally. Yeah, like giving more than you receive, for sure.
And it's like, if I were to receive something, I'm more into consumables. Like, give me coffee, give me spices.
What spices should I get?
I don't know. Whatever.
Do you know what I was referencing?
No.
Do you know now?
No.
Oh my God, AJ knows. We'll talk about it later.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. All of them. You should get all of them.
Yeah.
So I like hot sauces and colognes and just like things you consume, because I like to have my gifts have value to them, and sometimes when people give me stuff, I'm like, oh great, like there's no value in this to me. I'm now responsible for it, which means I have to like return it to the store and then go buy something that is valuable to me, or I have to like find a new home for it. Or
I think you talked about this on the behind the scenes podcast about how you like re-gift gifts. I think didn't we talk about it on there?
So the thing about gifts are, once it's given to you, you can do whatever you want with it. A lot of people
you can shove it up your butt.
A lot of people don't think that they can do that. They think there's some obligation to use it or to keep it or talk about it or whatever. There's not. It's your gift now. You can do whatever you want with it.
But people do have feelings attached to the gifts that they give you. They like seeing that you've used their gift in a way that they originally assumed.
Like my dad bought me my first camera, and like I almost cried when he gave it to me, because I was like saving up all this money, and he's like, let me just buy it for you. So I feel like I should always keep that camera as just like the place where I like started with,
Yeah, and I'm not saying you don't have to do that. I'm just simply saying like
it just completes the point of like gifts have a very emotional value to them, depending on like the situation,
like sentiment. But I'm just talking
like Richard is just like not that guy.
I'm not. I have zero sentiment towards any items ever.
Attach sentiment towards an item.
I just don't. But my sentiment is in my memory, in my heart, or the use I got out of it. Like if I get a lot of use out of something, and then when I'm done using it, I'll either like go take it to the Goodwill, or I'll sell it, or I'll give it back to the person that gave it to me. I'll ask them, I'll be like, hey, thank you so much for giving me this blank. I've got a lot of value out of it. I've used it for a couple of years. I'm done using it. Do you want it now? And a lot of people are really confused. They're like, well, you don't want it? I'm like, no, I want it. I used it. I'm done using it. Like, I'm going to give it to the Goodwill or something.
I've gotten all the value out of it that I'm going to get.
Yeah, I've squeezed all the value out of it. Like, I think about, like, so I bought myself this really nice blender. It was like a $300 blender that, like, I used daily for, like, 2 or 3 years. But I haven't touched that thing in over a year. I'm probably going to rehome it soon because it's just taking up space and I don't have any value for it. But if someone had given that to me, I would have gone back to that person and be like, hey, remember that, like, dope Blendtec you gave me, like, do you want it? Because I don't use it anymore. And they'd probably be like, oh dude, yeah, dude, that's awesome.
And they'd be like, dude, I was just about to start a Will It Blend YouTube channel where I blend up iPhones. Fuck yeah.
That's actually
I know, that's why I said Blendtec.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things, like, imagine if that person that gave it to me came over and they're like, well, where's your blender? I'd be like, oh, I gave it away. They'd be like, oh, ouch. Like, that would be hurtful.
Yeah, I like the idea of giving it back to the person that gave it to you, or at least offering it. It's kind of nice. Because a lot of times you buy gifts for someone that you also kind of secretly want, like a little bit.
That you want or like. And I even think about, like, one time my mom gave me this, like, digital picture frame that I didn't want or need, but there was, like, a receipt attached to it. And I was like, oh, cool. That's, like, $80 I could use. So I, like, went to Best Buy, returned it, took that money, and went to a place called Sur La Table and bought these really nice measuring spoons that I've been wanting for like a really long time, and a couple other accessories and stuff like that, because I wanted to make sure all my food was properly measured and it was just nice and whatever. And I remember she asked me, she's like, hey, you liking that digital picture frame? And I was like, I actually returned that frame and then used the money to buy some like really nice measuring spoons that I wanted. So thank you for that, because those measuring spoons are adding like a huge value to my life. So thank you for getting me those measuring spoons. And at first she was like confused, and then she was like, you're welcome, because you can do what you want, but
yeah, I think you're totally right. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about gifts, like now, like for example, yesterday I went and helped my dad out for like 5 hours, and my dad just had like spinal surgery, and
he also had both his knees done too.
He had both of his knees done this year and spinal surgery this year, so he's been he's like the bionic man now, but
he got chopped up because he hit that deductible and said, let's do them all.
Literally, because he got both of his knees done, and then they went to Cabo, and he was still feeling like bad, and he was like, it's my back, and the doctor was like, yeah, you've like onset like scoliosis or something like that, and they were like, let's just freaking do it while we got that deductible. So 2019 was the year of the surgery for my dad, but I went and helped him out with some stuff yesterday for like 5 hours or so. And I remember at the end, he's like, thank you so much for helping me, blah, blah, blah. I'll pay you back. And, it's kind of like, you worked for what, 5 hours? I don't know, I'll pay you $100. I'm like, cool. That works. I wasn't even honestly expecting to make anything, but I assumed like maybe he would like offer something because I did a bunch of stuff. But anyways, it was just kind of funny because like, it's like, oh, 5 hours, $100, like that was just kind of like the equivalent, and it felt fair to both of us. But then when you think about like a Christmas present, you're like, ooh, $100 is kind of a lot for a Christmas present. But like at the same time, it was only like, you're like, really? It's only like 5 hours worth of work. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, $100, that's a lot for a Christmas present. But at the end of the day, it's like a Christmas present. I don't know. When you think of like a big Christmas present, it should be something like big. And I guess just like as I've gotten older, the idea and the relationship around what is a lot of money and what is like a big present, it's just funny because I think there's things that like my parents or like people have bought me not on Christmas or not for my birthday or anything like that were like way bigger and more meaningful than like any Christmas present or like birthday present that I've ever gotten, which is just kind of funny. I don't know. I'm not like complaining or anything. I just think it's an interesting observation that the relationship around money when it's a present versus like you've kind of put in some work for it. Like my dad had no problem giving me $100 for like 5 hours worth of work when it was like helping. But like
if you would ask for like $100 gift,
he'd be like,
oh, that's a little steep.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of funny,
Yeah, I one of the things as I've gotten older that I really appreciate is the gift of experiences, or
yes,
like even getting or giving experiences, because those memories are invaluable. Like a trip to a place, costs plane tickets, and it costs hotel, and it costs food, and it might be a little bit steeper than any other thing, but like that's a lifetime of memory. Like those experiences, those memories last a lifetime. The joy lasts a lifetime. Those memories last a lifetime. But it's like you get an item, you're like, it's cool for a little while, and then it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
You get like the initial
and
excitement.
You can only collect so many things and all that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's why I'm so like anti things.
Yeah, well, you are super anti things. I'm like I'm definitely a few notches below you as far as anti things. Like how many like as minimalism, but I definitely agree.
You collect cool stuff. Like you like I've noticed a part of your personality is like little items and trinkets that you've collected from over the years. Like
but only the ones that actually mean something. Because you should see my like bedroom at my parents' house. There's literally like a whole closet full of other shit that I hand selected the things that I wanted to like bring to my new house.
Right, and because you got that little like cubby next to your bathroom.
Yeah.
You've got your like
display shelf. Yeah, with
Tomorrowland display. You've got like a couple of, I mean, you look around my place and I've got nothing. Like,
yeah, literally nothing.
Because I just don't.
Richard gets off on how many things he can get rid of.
I would agree with that. It's like, not a matter of getting off. It's like a clear, like a clean and tidy and clear space means a clean and tidy and clear mind. And like everything has to have a place, and everything has to have use and have a value. And if something's taking up space, and it's like,
well, that was one of the biggest things with my new place, in my new room. Like I really, when I was kind of designing it, because honestly it was a kind of a really empty shell. Is a weird room where it was kind of two rooms with a wall knocked down in the middle. I was trying to create this separation between bedroom and office, and I had to really kind of like put a lot of thought into how I was going to create that separation.
I mean, I think you've succeeded because it's very clear what's the bedroom and what's the office.
Yeah,
even though
like-
it's in the same room.
It's basically the same room, but I kind of like created this separation. I think I did a great job. I really like what I did with it, but I had to be really, I was intentional, very, very intentional on like, this is as clean and as organized as my room will ever be when I first move into it. So I need to make sure that like everything has a place and everything has a purpose, or I need to just fucking get rid of it, because there's no point in bringing shit from my old place into my new place that I haven't even used in, you know, a couple of years or whatever. Like it's just, there's no point.
Yeah. What kind of random, back to the initial topic question. What's your
Christmas.
What's your thought on this whole like holiday cheers and jeers and, you know, movies and, you know, snuggling with your family and all the advertisements and the lights and the malls? It's like, do you think a lot of the like holiday spirit is manufactured? Like I like for the purpose.
I mean,
of,
I think you're answering your own question there, but yeah, I mean, like I think it's I don't think it's like a freaking like Illuminati conspiracy of like, let's make this as consumerist as possible.
Let's
and blah, blah, blah.
monetize Christmas.
I just think it's just been over time. I mean, even in Australia where it's not even cold there, like literally it's their summertime right now, it's still Christmas, and they still, part of the branding is winter time. Like it literally, it's like Santa, but he might be like surfing, but like there might be still like penguins and stuff. Like there's still this weird Americanized version of Christmas that's all around winter that has permeated the world, which is, you know, fascinating in certain ways. But I think it's just over time, corporations, like it's kind of,
well, between November and December is when people spend the most money.
yeah,
so
and
it's
even
like,
not even just on Christmas presents, just on things. It's just the time of year where you just end up buying shit. I mean, I've bought way more shit in the past month than I've bought this whole year. I mean, you know, and that's just because you're kind of in that mood of just like, oh, well, you know, I'm buying all this stuff for other people. I might as well treat myself a little bit. Like, it's just a very consumerist time. And I think it's also
even,
because
like,
you've
the
got Black
parties and stuff,
Friday
too,
deals and yeah, I mean, I don't know. People just like any excuse to like celebrate shit, and I mean that's fine. I tend to not get wrapped up in all that kind of stuff. I tend to kind of just follow this idea that I know you pretty much subscribe to. It's like it's still just another day. Like there's no reason why this day is any more special than any other day.
yeah,
you know,
every day is just a day.
Every
And
day is just a day. Same with New Year's. Like that's when I talk about New Year's resolutions. Like the first of the year has fucking nothing to do with anything. Because if you really take a step back and get super hippie with it, it's like get super hippie with it. You know what I'm saying? If you get super hippie with it, like you literally, what is time? What is the concept of a calendar? What is like? There's no.
It's all made up.
It's all fucking made up. Who says that on this day? I'm sure that there's some like Mayan whatever reasoning why the certain day is the first of the year, but it's like in the Chinese calendar it's different. You know, back in the day,
Sun cycles, patterns, crops,
what a
stuff like that.
second or a minute or an hour is, anyways. You know, and so it's like if we just all agree that like all of this is just a construct. Literally, I think Steve Jobs had a quote that said something like, once you realize that all the decisions and things around us and all the cultural norms, and I'm butchering the quote, I'm kind of elaborating here, but all the things that we know as reality were literally created by someone who's no smarter than you or I.
It was all just made up by
you
people.
start to
smarter than
realize
us, yeah.
how powerful you actually are, and you realize that you can poke the universe and it'll poke back. And I mean, he's like the epitome of that. He freaking made a fucking giant dent in the universe in his lifetime.
He, in my opinion, so we have.
Were you at Apple when he was alive?
Yeah, I was there when he died, and and people memorialized the stores. They were
Literally.
they were bringing like flowers and notes and memorials, and like it's crazy.
What was that like working there at that time?
I mean, it felt like a god had died. Like the way the people were like acting and behaving and talking in memories and even talking about how like powerful and important Apple products had been in their entire life and their career and you know like
He really did change the world.
I mean, I think so. You look at like when cavemen first figured out how to use tools, that's an important part of our human history. You think about the agricultural revolution, you think about the industrial revolution. Well, even before that, language, we have tools, we have agricultural
There's a lot of
revolution.
steps along the way, for sure.
I think the internet is a huge part of that revolution,
For sure.
but I think mobile internet is the part that made it
Yeah, and let's face it, Steve Jobs didn't invent mobile internet, but he created the modern mobile computing device that we all know and love. Like, without the iPhone, there would be no Android. Without the iPhone, there would be no modern smartphone. Without, like, there are just so many things. Where
the same thing with Mac. It's like Mac was the first computer to have a graphic user interface.
Totally.
The idea of having a personal computer in your house was laughable. It was like, why would you ever need a glorified computer in your house, you psychopath? And now it's like we carry this around in our pocket all day, every day. It's an extension of our brains now.
Yeah, and I mean, you can get really nostalgic with it and be like, oh, I remember the days when we didn't have it. It's like, dude, there are so many benefits of having a computer in your pocket. It's not even funny. Like, the amount of power. I mean, think about what we're doing right now. We're able to, like, have a career talking into microphones, and then everyone's gonna be listening to it on their little devices. Like, no one's sitting at home listening to the radio. No one's like tuning in to shit live. They're listening on their own time, and they're listening because of these amazing devices. And you know, actually, to go back on the Mac thing, MKBHD has a series called Retro Tech right now. Yeah. It's really good. He did an episode on the original Mac 1 or the Apple 1 or whatever, or whichever the one with the first one with the GUI, the graphical user interface. Like, he did with iJustine. It was a really good episode. You should check it out if you're interested in that kind of stuff.
I mean, I'm going to have to check it out.
It's really good.
It was probably the Apple II, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the Apple II. I don't remember, but
it was like a white square, basically.
Yeah, it was really cool, though, because they kind of do, his whole series on Retro Tech is really interesting, and he's doing a lot of cool stuff with that. It's with YouTube Premium, but I think it is available to everyone. It's not behind a paywall.
All of them came out at the same time.
If you had YouTube Premium.
If you had Premium. If you didn't have Premium, it's weekly.
Yeah, so I haven't watched all of them yet, but because I have YouTube Premium, but all of them that I've seen so far, I've seen the one with the first camcorder. I saw the original one that he did with Casey about the original Game Boy, and the new one with the Mac, and they've all been really good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to think about. You know, he's definitely one of those people that
he just hit 10 million subscribers. He made a like kind of a memorial video of all of his 10 years on YouTube, because he started when he was a kid. I mean, he's like my age.
His very first video was sitting at a kitchen table reviewing his mom's HP laptop.
Yeah, he was reviewing.
It's like, hi, my name's Marquez, and this is my mom's laptop, and I just want to talk about it. And you're like, whoa.
And it's funny because he literally has this one video where he shows it in the memorial video, kind of celebrating his 10 million. And he talks about how, like, he was showing some tutorial on how you can, like, fuck with the code of websites to make it look like there's certain things happening on the website that aren't actually happening. Like, you could go into the source code and, like, mess with numbers and text. It's not actually affecting the text for anyone else in the world, but what's displaying on your monitor, you can, like, mess with that.
Oh, interesting.
And so, like, he was making it so he had, like, 1,000 subscribers or something. He's like, so now you can make it look like you have 1,000 subscribers. Or even 1 million or something like that. And he's like, maybe one day. And it's so cute because it's like him when he's literally like 15 or 13 or something crazy. Like, he was so freaking young. And it's like this journey of him just being so passionate about it. And then at the end, he finally did a middle name reveal. He's never revealed what the K stood for in MKBHD, because it stands for his initials, Marquez blank Brownlee HD, which is like high definition. And he never, in all of 10 years, he never revealed what his middle name was. And people were speculating, people, you know, whatever. And it's always been this running joke that he would reveal it at 10 million, and he did.
Nice.
Yeah. Should I say it, or should I just make people go watch the video?
Yeah,
you gotta go watch the video.
You gotta go watch it, or you
It's
can just tell me.
worth it.
You can tell me off.
I'll tell you off, but I'm not
air.
telling everyone else. You gotta go watch it. It's worth the watch. It's really good.
Do you have any? So like, I've kind of been like a Scrooge and a humbug around Christmas for a long time, because most of the bad things that have happened to me in my life have happened around this time of year.
Interesting.
So I've got really weird imprinted memories around like Thanksgiving, Christmas, my birthday, because they're all kind of like in a 2 or 3 month period. So whenever it starts getting cold, I'm like, all right, time for me to just like buckle down and like cover up and like just hang on for a few months until it's all over. And I used to
when you're in a bad mood and you're like forced to be around like people whose lives are like doing okay, and you're forced to make like small talk about your life, that's like the worst.
Yeah, and I've been kind of Scroogey and kind of like ugh. And over the years, I've been slowly like making more and more new and better memories, and it's been nice, because I usually have a lot of like negativity and like trauma and like bad, you know, shit attached to, you know, I mean, basically November to February. I mean
winter.
Yeah, November
cold months,
to
seasonal
March.
depression.
Yeah, just and you know, this year I've finally been like open to making new memories, and even the year before I've always been okay with it, but like one of the things I've noticed is like a lot of normal people, I guess, have traditions that they have with their family or with themselves, or like it's like, hey, at Thanksgiving we do like these things, and like, hey, it's, you know, Christmas time and we do these things, and it's New Year's time and we do these things. Like, what things do you do that you like enjoy or like have memories, and like people listening to, I'll leave
kinds
comments
of
about what
interesting family traditions. Yeah, I think one of the ones that's been kind of recent in the past, I think like 4 or 5 years we've done this, is on Christmas Day. We've gone over to this one family's house and we have like Christmas brunch kind of. So we'll like do the present thing and then we go over there to their house for brunch. So that's been kind of fun. That's like a tradition that I enjoy. And it's actually kind of funny because we've done it for the past like 4 or 5 years and the same families come every year. And I never see any of those people except for at that brunch.
Yeah.
And the more recent years, it feels like the years have been going by faster and faster because it feels like I was literally at that brunch like a week ago. Like, I remember the conversations we had. I remember what people were doing because you kind of give those life updates like, oh, what are you up to? Oh, I'm graduating. Oh, I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. And it's so weird because I'm like, we're already going to the Christmas brunch. Like, this year has been nuts.
Yeah, I remember back when I lived in Kansas City, kind of before a lot of the, I'm just leaving it alone. I'll lean forward. A lot of like the bad, you know, shit happened to me or whatever. I mean, there was still, dude, my whole life has just been nonsense. But
it's literally like Lemony Snicket,
a series of unfortunate events. Yeah. So there was this place called the Plaza in Kansas City on the evening of Thanksgiving before everyone went. You guys are loving that shit.
I like that one.
It's just like y'all were in sync so perfectly. And Andrew and I have been doing that a lot recently. We'll say like the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
And y'all just did it.
Yeah.
It's like,
me and Richard talk about that. We're like,
what
if we
the
were
hell
girls,
is going on?
If we were girls, we'd be syncing up on our periods right now. Like we are synced.
Seriously, we're synced. Yeah, dude. So we used to, like, before people went Black Friday shopping, you know, we would go to this place called the Plaza and they would turn on all the Christmas lights, and I remember that being kind of fun. We'd also go to this place, I forget the name of it, that used to set off fireworks like Christmas Eve, and that was cool because you'd get a whole fireworks display, but you'd be outside like freezing. I remember driving around in like the nice neighborhoods that put up the Christmas tree lights, you know, and being like, "Ooh, pretty," you know, like stuff like that. And I haven't done those in a while, but I'm like ready to. Parkville, that was the name of it. Parkville. If you live in Kansas City, Missouri area, go to Parkville and watch the fireworks.
What up, Parkville?
It's beautiful. It's romantic as fuck, dude. But
romantic as fuck. It's romantic as fuck.
But yeah, I just spending time with my family is what it's been turned to. Like last year, we went to a place called Santa's Fantastical, which is basically just one big Instagram opportunity.
Which, by the way, what the fuck is that name?
It
sounds like it's missing a word. It's called Santa's Fantastical. It should be called like Santa's Fantastical Workshop or Santa's Fantastical Playland. It's literally just called Santa's Fantastical. Fantastical what?
Yeah, I agree.
Come on!
But it's cool, man. You go in there and you just walk through these rooms, and each room has these different themes and these like parts of the set that you can like play on and sit on and take pictures with. And then there's this like number you can text. So you take a picture on your phone and you text the picture to this number, and it gets printed out and like put on the wall, and you can just go grab it off. It's all a part of the ticket price. And then there's like a slide for like the kids, and then there's like this theatrical area where like people do like performances every 15 to 20 minutes, and then there's like this other area where you can go sit on Santa's lap, and it's like a good place to like spend a couple of hours as a family.
It's literally like one of those Instagram destination kind of things.
It really is. Like, I'm not joking.
It's like 29 rooms with Friday 29 and stuff like that.
Yeah, you just go in there and it's like you just take Instagram pictures.
You should listen to there's an episode of Why'd You Push That Button called Why Do You Go to Instagram events or something like that, and it's basically all about those types of places. It's really interesting.
Well, I mean, it's an unfortunate reality these days that like the best way to get people to go to a place is make it a place worthy of bragging about and taking pictures. So it's like if you have this huge set that's like it's a giant candy cane theme, and you get in it and it looks like you're being sucked down a tornado into a candy cane, and you're like, whoa, you know,
wacky. It's cool if you go there at the beginning of when the thing opens. But then once you realize that you're like, whoa, where is that? And then you see it again, 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 and then you see it again. And then by the time you've seen every single person on your Insta feed go to this place, you're like, oh, you're basic as fuck. I see how it is.
Yeah, it's like there's like a new poppin' bar or like a new cool area, or like how about those light posts in LA? you know, or Runyon Canyon or like whatever it is. Like there's always so much
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, there's a difference though between like the light posts in LA and Runyon Canyon, because those are like actual landmark. Well, I mean, like Runyon Canyon, like that's a real place. The light thing, like that's a permanent fixture. And these other places that are like pop-ups, it's like they have no historical context. They have no like sentimental value to the city or the culture. It's literally just like a bastardization of like, you're pretending to be in a cool place, but actually it's a warehouse just filled with these fake cool places.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
so
it is a cool picture though, and it is a fun photo op. And I'm just playing like devil's advocate.
Or even like, how about,
it is a fun place. I'm sure it's fun to go with your family. I'm sure it's a great place to take kids and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm sure that if you went on a date there, it'd be a blast. I'm just saying it's just kind of like this interesting phenomenon of, it's not even an actual place where you do real things. It's literally just a place to like
take pictures,
go take pics, which
Seriously.
is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're having fun, dude, and especially
I mean,
if you're
how
not
about
taking Instagram seriously, like, come on.
How
Like, it's
about
just
all
fun.
the Buckhead people that always take all the pictures in front of all the entrances at all the bars, you know, because they've got all the walls that are like specially made. It's like, oh, I know that bar because that's the one with the green grass and the white moose head on the wall, you know.
That is the most stereotypical shit for bars to do now, is like the little like fake vines and stuff on the wall. Like the green plants with like a neon
It's
sign.
like
or
an
something.
area for them people to take pictures. Like
Yeah,
they
it's an
know it.
Instagram wall. It's like a real thing, unfortunately, but whatever.
Yeah. All right.
But anyways,
let's go ahead and
let's wrap this bitch up.
We're about 5 minutes over, but that is okay.
If you still, after this, want to participate in the Apple Podcast debate, whether it's going to help us or not, I think it will help us out. Go subscribe, rate 5 stars, and leave us a little review on Apple Podcasts, even though we basically kind of like revealed the behind the scenes of like how it potentially actually works. I still think it's helpful. Like it really is helpful.
It super is helpful.
When people come to the show and they see that there's a bunch of reviews and they see people doing it, like
Social currency. It's proof.
Exactly. It's proof that there's actual listeners. Because that's the weird thing about podcasts. Not to get on another rabbit trail, but if you go to a YouTube video and there's a million views, you're more likely to stick on it because you're like, oh, there's a lot of other people that enjoy this too. Versus when you go to a podcast, there's no indication of how many listeners they have.
There's no marker.
Unless there's a bunch of reviews.
Reviews
That's
are
the only way.
The only marker. Yeah. So if you can help us get that marker so more people
Help
can
us
see
out.
it, that'd be great. Follow us on places.
Follow us on places. See you guys.
Later.